Okay, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Prophets of Awakening. I've got a little few issues with my laptop on the other side, so what I'm gonna do is just improvise, and I'm gonna I was dealing with last night on Clubhouse. I was dealing with um the why second in charge. So I didn't completely finish that, so I'm gonna try to finish it up. But I'm gonna bring everybody up the part of what was said before I pick up where I left off. Um, this is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Sabbath class, the 21st of October, 2023. Okay. The title within inside the room is it's a continuation from the clubhouse, which is why second in charge, right? So um, to give you a little background on Prophets of Awakening, it's a non-messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, the so-called Book of Remembrance, uh, and the Torah is the first five books of the Old Testament. You can go to our YouTube channel and check out. We have a bunch of videos, like I said, over about at least 600-700 videos from ranging from all different types of topics and conversations. And through these videos, a lot of dots are being connected in these last days. So if you like what you're hearing and receiving um, through these videos, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for anyone that wants to support the channel, you can deal with our cash app at the bottom of the screen. Okay. And with that being said, I want to say uh, shalom and welcome to the channel. Welcome to our Sabbath class. And then we're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, Sabbath prayer. We're going to read the Psalms. And if my computer is back up, we'll deal with our current events. But if not, I'm just going to go into to the lesson and then go in from there. So this moment of silence is for the Lord's host and all He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and your wisdom. When we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of your people Israel. Oh Lord, you have given us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers, and you, O Lord, have directed us to who you are and your role in the going on of heaven and earth. When we come this Sabbath day, doubtless that you will appear, that you will gather your nation from among all these wicked Gentiles. Tarry not, O Lord, for the latter days are here, and we are waiting and watching for you. Peace be unto you. Okay. So I'll read a song right quick. Okay, I'll read Psalms 33. It's praise to the Lord for his creation. It says, rejoice in the Lord, O you righteous, or for praise is comely for the upright. Praise the Lord with a harp. Sing unto him with pastry and an instrument of 10 strings. Sing unto him a new song. Play skillfully with a loud noise. For the word of the Lord is right, and all his works are done in truth. He loveth righteousness and judgment. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. And by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of heaven, a host of them, by the breath of his mouth. He gathered the waters of the sea together as a heap. He laid up the deep in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord, and let all inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spake, Okay, says for he spake and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. The Lord bringeth the counsel of the heathen to naught. He maketh the device of the people of none effect. The counsel of the Lord standeth forever. The thoughts of his heart for all generations. Yeah. For all generations. Blessed is the nation of whose God is the Lord, and the peoples whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance. For Lord looketh from the heavens, he beholdeth all the sons of men. From the place of his habitation, he looketh upon all the inhabitants of the earth. He fashioned their hearts alike. He considered all their works. There is no king saved by the multitude of the host. A mighty man is not delivered by much strength. A horse is a vain thing for safety, neither shall he deliver any by his great strength. Behold, the eyes of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy, to deliver their soul from death, and to keep them alive in famine. Our soul waited for the Lord, he is our help and our shield. For our heart shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Let thy mercy, O Lord, be upon us according to as we hope in thee. Okay, so that was Psalm 33, to praise the Lord for his creation. Okay, anybody have any comments on that?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir. As you were reading Psalms 33 and 13, God's
Okay,
chosen people, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance. So to me, as you were reading that, that tells us that back in Deuteronomy chapter 7 and
right.
6, God has chosen
Okay,
Israel. Deuteronomy 7, verse 6, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So that tells us right there again that we are his chosen people. We are set apart.
right.
We're not like no other nation. So I just wanted to point that verse out. Shalom.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I appreciate that. Glad my computer trying to do something, so let me see, wait for a minute. We at current events. Okay, okay, okay.
The Israeli army has completely wiped out Hamas and Hezbollah from Syria. The Israel Defense Forces announced that they have conducted a large-scale air operation against Syria and that outposts and ammunition depots belonging to Hamas and Hezbollah forces have been destroyed. The violence of the war between Israel and Hamas, which began on December 7, continues to increase day by day. The Israeli army has completed all the preparations for the ground operation they plan to destroy Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip. However, with Iran providing military support to Hamas and Hezbollah forces, the Israeli military was forced to postpone this ground operation. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is quite confident that Hamas will be destroyed. A spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces recently announced that they will enter the Gaza Strip and begin heated clashes with Hamas militants. The mutual attacks that have been going on between Israel and Iran for years have also had an impact on this war. Both countries are in a struggle with each other to prove who is the most powerful state in the Middle East. The Iranian government is aware that the Israeli army has a military force that will destroy the Hamas forces. For this reason, Iran is trying to degrade Israel by providing military support to Hezbollah and Hamas. And do you think that Iran will be able to corner Israel in the Middle East by carrying out this diabolical plan? It is a known fact that missiles and anti-tank missiles belonging to the Iranian army are used by Hezbollah forces. Hezbollah, which is stationed on the Syrian and Lebanese borders, carries out airstrikes against Israel every day. The Israel Defense Forces have deployed Iron Dome air defense systems in many parts of the country in order to prevent these attacks on Israel. U.S. President Joe Biden did not.
Okay, yeah, so that was massive retaliation. Let me see, this was an hour ago. I just seen some pop up. Let me play this, guys. Let me see what's up with it. Okay. Said Tel Aviv on fire. So let me see what's going on with that.
The Israel-Palestine conflict continues to escalate. The statement made by Israeli Chief of General Staff Herzi Halevi sent shockwaves throughout the region. His words were clear and indicated a determined intent. Israel was preparing for a major operation in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military was determined to deal a heavy blow to the Hamas organization, which governs Gaza. Halevi emphasized that Israel's primary goal was to target Hamas nerve centers where they plan operations and rocket launch sites. He left no room for uncertainty, stating that the mission for every commander and fighter in Israel was to eliminate them and cripple Hamas infrastructure. This declaration was not mere words. It heralded a significant escalation in the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. In the midst of the escalating tensions in the Israel-Palestine conflict, Israeli Chief of General Staff Herzi Halevi made a grim and resolute statement. His words resonated not only within Israel's military and political circles, but also in the global community. He said, "We will enter Gaza and hit Hamas hard. We will target every place where Hamas plans and fires rockets, every commander, every man, and we will destroy their infrastructure." The statement left no room for doubt. There was a clear and significant military operation on the horizon. The atmosphere was tense, and the world watched as Israel stated its intentions. In response to Halevi's statement, the military wing of Hamas, the Yazidin Qassam brigades, put their own plan into action. They initiated a calculated and strategic rocket attack targeting Israel's Ramon airbase. This was more than a retaliation. It was a signal of intent. As the rockets rose into the sky, the Israeli military personnel at the Ramon airbase prepared themselves. Explosions accompanied the rocket impacts, signaling the beginning of a direct confrontation between Hamas and the Israeli military. The attack wasn't limited to rockets. It was a determined move by the Yazidin Qassam brigades to challenge Israel's military power. This demonstrated their willingness to interfere with Israel's military infrastructure and confront their adversaries directly. The conflict had become significant and perilous. In the midst of the chaos, both sides grappled with the consequences of their decisions. The world held its breath in uncertainty about the path this conflict would take. The echoes of rockets and the looming new military operations on the horizon made the region's future uncertain. Shortly afterward, the vibrant metropolis of Tel Aviv in Israel endured a tense night. Usually a city filled with life and energy, it had become a place of fear and uncertainty. The announcement by Israeli Chief of General Staff Herzi Halevi had sent shockwaves through the region, and the city's residents understood that an impending military operation was about to unfold. Missiles from the darkened sky headed toward Tel Aviv. Air raid sirens filled the city with a terrifying and unsettling sound. People scrambled to find shelter, and panic gripped the streets. Neighborhood residents sought refuge from the incoming missiles in their homes, offices, and even open spaces. As the missiles found their targets, a series of explosions illuminated the night. Fire and smoke rose into the air, creating a horrifying scene in the city's dark sky. The Azed and Qassam brigades had initiated calculated attacks in response to Israel's declared intentions. Their goals were clear: to damage Israel's military infrastructure. The missile strikes on Tel Aviv were not just random acts of violence. They were designed as strategic strikes aimed at the heart of Israel. The absence of Iron Dome activation during the attack added to the confusion and fear in the city as it grappled with a sudden and unexpected assault. In the midst of this chaos, Israeli authorities were struggling to respond. They were expecting a challenging operation in Gaza, but the attack on Tel Aviv signaled an important escalation that demanded immediate action to protect the city and its residents. The night passed with a mixed feeling of relief and concern as Tel Aviv residents realized that their city had become a target in the ongoing and intensifying conflict. Further developments would unfold in the coming days. One of the most perplexing aspects of the missile attack on Tel Aviv was the conspicuous silence of Israel's highly advanced and celebrated missile defense system, the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome had become synonymous with Israel's defense strategy and provided a sense of security for its citizens during times of conflict. However, on this fateful night, it remained strangely inactive, leaving the city vulnerable.
Matsado knives do stand out from the crowd. The leather case.
The Iron Dome was designed to intercept and neutralize incoming missiles in real time, creating a shield against such threats. When combined with advanced radar systems and rapid response capabilities, it had become a formidable defense mechanism. Israel had always relied on the Iron Dome to protect population centers from missile attacks. The inactivity of the Iron Dome during the attack on Tel Aviv sent shockwaves throughout the entire city. Residents of the region, accustomed to the familiar sounds of the system intercepting missiles, were met with an eerie silence. The absence of the reassuring word of the Iron Dome intercepting missiles left many people bewildered and concerned. At this critical moment, questions arose about why the Iron Dome remained inactive. Had it malfunctioned? Was there a tactical decision to cease its operation? Or had it been overwhelmed by the size and precision of the incoming missiles? As Israel grappled with these unsettling questions, the mystery surrounding the Iron Dome's inactivity only heightened the general atmosphere of insecurity. Already shaken by the missile attack, the city's residents had to confront a new and unexpected reality. Even their most trusted defense systems could be shaken. The night not only brought explosions and uncertainty, but also revealed a newfound vulnerability that would linger in the minds of Tel Aviv residents in the days to come. As chaos and uncertainty reigned in Tel Aviv during the night, the missile attacks by the Azed and Qassam brigades had plunged the city into disarray, and the unexpected inaction of the Iron Dome only heightened anxiety. In the midst of this chaos, a new event emerged that would further complicate the situation: a large explosion at an Israeli military depot. Details about the explosion remained unclear. Was it an accident, an act of sabotage, or a direct consequence of the missile attacks? The void left by a lack of clear information was filled with rumors and speculation. However, one undeniable aspect was the magnitude of the explosion. The blast shook the city, and shockwaves were felt everywhere. For a moment, the night sky lit up with a fierce explosion of flames, casting an eerie and surreal glow over Tel Aviv.
So according to this video right here, which is an hour ago, it said that Tel Aviv is on fire. So it was attacked by a missile. Something happened to the supposedly to that Iron Dome. It's not working. It wasn't working. And Tel Aviv got struck with a bunch of missiles. So check that out later on after class over with. If anybody else want to do some research on it. Any comments?
Yes, shalom. Israel, they are really relying on, this Iron Dome to,
Right.
fend off attacks and so forth. That it's not gonna work. They trying to figure out why the Iron Dome is not doing what they thought it was gonna do. You know what I'm saying? So they can hang it up. I don't care how many Iron Domes they have. They gonna come up out of there.
Okay.
And Biden is not only wanting to send funds to them and Ukraine, you know what I'm saying, but he's also wanting to send another package to fund the Iron Dome separate from another aid packet to Israel, and also included Ukraine in that. So you just have to look at, the Lord of hosts in this, because if this Iron Dome was supposed to be so effective in the protection of them, and you still have things that are able to come through as far as missiles or whatever, that's saying something.
Exactly. Right. Is that something? Anybody else?
Shalom, all. I missed it because I'm just coming in, so I didn't hear the current event.
Okay, so got another one right here. This got to do with, I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but the Huckabee, the lady used to be the spokesman for the White House. She's a senator, I think now, but she's a governor. So all of these other ladies got together, and they want to look at it.
We got a whole crew.
Yeah,
Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us.
You got to see this. So the video name of this Huckabee Sanders signs an order banning woke terms like pregnant people from the state government. Okay.
It's great to stand up here with some of the most influential and amazing women from across our state. We are all here to say, frankly, that we've had enough. Enough trying to erase women and girls, enough denying our biological differences from men, and enough of the craziness that is taking over our country. I've had the honor of being both the first woman and the first mother to serve as the governor of Arkansas. Before that, I was the first mother and the third woman to serve as the White House press secretary. Because of that, I came into this role with a few pretty unique experiences. Among them is giving birth to 3 amazing kids. That experience underscored to me that a woman's perspective is important and fundamentally different from a man's. Nowadays, though, only conservatives seem to be making that point. On the left, women have taken a backseat to political correctness. It's why Senator Irving and Representative Barker had to pass the Fairness in Women's Sports Act to defend our girls across the state. They're using nonsense words to erase women and girls, and more importantly, to erase our voices and our experiences. Today, we're taking a stand against woke nonsense. What frankly started as a fad among a few grad students has seeped down into corporations, the healthcare industry, and increasingly state government. It's demeaning to women, and it needs to stop. In a moment, I'll sign an executive order banning a number of all sorts of ridiculous words from state government documents. Those include words like pregnant people, laboring person, birth giver, and several other nonsense terms that have cropped up in recent years. Some on the left will accuse us of being nitpicky, that Arkansas should just lay down and accept the cultural revolution without complaint. I say it's the exact opposite. It's the left that decided that woman is a dirty word. It's the left that decided we needed to toss out basic biology and basic grammar along with it. I think they're just mad that conservatives are starting to fight back, and they better get ready because we're just getting started. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the amazing women that are standing up here with me. I'll sign this executive order. We'll hear a few words from Dr. Chandler, and I'll be happy to take a few questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody seen that?
Yes, sir. I watched a little bit of it, not all of it. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's not for us. It's not for us at all. So I think that's what really just had me move on to another video as she started, speaking about that, because I'm like, it's really, it's time out for that. Just certain things like that. Once I start watching and I get into it a little bit and I see that it's nonsense, that's what it is. I just move on. I didn't watch the whole thing, but that's something.
Right.
Shalom. I did the same thing almost with Sister Michelle. I just remember her being press secretary, and I didn't like her views then, and so I don't follow her. So I didn't look at it. Shalom.
Right. Yeah, that's Huckabee's daughter, the guy that ran for president. He got the big,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, he got that big show, some kind of show, what's it called, podcast, something bigger than that, but yeah, that's the same. That's his daughter. So this is need to know information right here. It's who controls the world. And yeah, let's check it out.
Who really controls the world? Depending on your perspective, the answer might be mega banks like JP Morgan, asset managers like BlackRock, tech companies like Microsoft, or unaccountable and unelected international organizations like the World Economic Forum. Maybe it's all of the above. But what if I told you that there's an entity that's bigger than all these institutions? After all, these institutions seem to be on the same page when it comes to things like CBDCs, digital IDs, and smart cities. Well, that is not a coincidence. So today, we're going to tell you about this entity and reveal who's really in control. Believe it or not, but the entity that seems to be coordinating all the world's most powerful institutions is none other than the United Nations, or UN. This is something we've noticed while researching these institutions, and we figured it was about time we found out whether this really is the case. Spoiler alert, it definitely seems to be. To understand why, we must go back in time to before the UN was founded. Once upon a time, the world wasn't as peaceful as it is today. There were constant wars and conflicts that caused constant disruption. After the Napoleonic Wars of the 1800s, the powers that be decided to try and achieve a period of peace. Of course, back then, those powers were mostly in Europe, and they tried to achieve peace by creating the Concert of Europe in 1815. No, it wasn't a classical music piece. It was actually the very first international organization in history tasked with ensuring that its member countries didn't go to war. If you know your history, you'll know the Concert of Europe inevitably started to fracture, and it fell apart completely when the First World War started in 1914. But a precedent had been set. After the war ended in 1918, the powers that be decided to try for a period of peace again with the League of Nations in 1920. The difference this time was that the League of Nations had other goals besides preventing war. Most of these goals related to human rights, such as labor conditions. Alas, the League of Nations didn't last as long as its predecessor. It fell apart when the Second World War began in 1939, less than 20 years later. But, as the saying goes, the third time's a charm. By the time World War II ended in 1945, the UN had effectively been founded, though it was officially founded a month after the war.
So, do that sound familiar? Didn't we talked about how Malachi, that Esau shook his finger at the Most High and told him, you know, though you kick us out of here, we're going to return. And so through these world wars, they end up getting the land of Israel, back after the end of the First World War. Then at the end of the Second World War, they went into the land in 1948. But at the same time, check out when the UN was established, 1948. So this Esau's doing. He's the culprit. He's the one. And not only that, the Federal Reserve, all this stuff, it's him that's behind all of it. Like you said, he tried over and over again to get control of our money. And finally he got it when they came in and created the Federal Reserve through, can't think his name, but it was his president. He'll come to me, but at the same time we see how he tried 3 or 4 different times trying to create this United Nations thing. Finally, he succeeded with the UN, but it ain't just come into existence out of nowhere. He had been dealing with it. It'll rise and fall, rise and fall. Women's lib. I told you first time they came with it was all Edomite Israeli women. That ain't work. The people, all the women of the nations rejected him. Then they came back, and after trying that time, they came back. They had this black singer that could sing. They had her with her. All of them was lesbians. And that's when they caught it. Till now it's got tentacles. It's all over the place. But it's not a coincidence that this thing came into existence in 1948, just like Israel came into existence in 1948. Listen more, play.
Ended. Like its predecessors, the UN was founded by the powers that be, 50 countries back then. Today, the UN includes essentially every country on the planet, all 193 of them. Like the League of Nations, the UN's primary purpose was to uphold peace, but its founding charter included a laundry list of other goals to keep its member countries preoccupied. These not only included humanitarian efforts, but also the fostering of international cooperation on other issues that are global in nature. So then, what's the problem? Well, if you claim to have global issues, then you can justify global solutions. And the only way you can have global solutions is to have a single global government, which is basically what the UN is. Logically, this means that you need a single global currency, a single global military, and so on. As it so happens, the UN established its own military in 1948, shortly after its founding. The UN went on its first so-called peacekeeping mission in 1956. After the Cold War ended in 1988, the UN's military purpose expanded from keeping tensions in countries under control to keeping people under control. Case in point, the UN recently published a blog post explaining that its peacekeeping operations will soon expand to social media with the creation of a so-called digital army which will fight misinformation and disinformation. By now, you'll know that this is code for stuff that the people in power do not like. The blog post itself specifies that the UN's digital army will also combat any information that impedes the progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. For context, the SDGs consist of 17 goals that all member countries must meet by 2030. This is why you've seen that 2030 date everywhere. It's also why every country seems to be rushing to roll out digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, and smart cities. The SDGs mandate the implementation of all these dystopian technologies by 2030. The clock is running out, and the UN and its affiliates are trying to rush them to the finish line. If you want to make sure other people see this video before that happens, smash that like button to give it a boost in the algorithm, and take a second to share this video with anyone who you think is willing to watch it. Note that everything I'm saying here can be fact-checked. I'll leave a few links in the description. Now, this begs the obvious question of who controls the UN. To answer this question, we must understand how the UN works. Because the UN is colloquially referred to as an international body, its various branches are often referred to as organs. A+ marketing from whoever came up with that one. Jokes aside, the UN consists of 6 organs: the General Assembly, the Security Council, which you'll have heard of, the Economic and Social Council, the Secretariat, the International Court of Justice, and the Trusteeship Council. Now, these last 2 aren't that important for the purposes of this video. The only thing worth noting about the International Court of Justice is that it's the only UN organ that's not based in New York City. As for the Trusteeship Council, it was created to allow countries to become sovereign. It was shut down in 1994. Nothing to see there, I'm sure. Anyways, the General Assembly consists of the UN's 193 member countries. Representatives from these member countries meet every September to discuss and vote on resolutions. Important resolutions require 2/3 of votes in order to pass, whereas unimportant resolutions require a simple majority, more than 50%. Now, the Security Council consists of 15 countries, 5 of which hold a permanent place on the Council, and 10 of which rotate every 2 years. Those 5 countries are the winners of the Second World War: France, Russia, China, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Interesting history there, but no time to tell it. On that note, here's where things get really interesting. The 5 permanent members of the Security Council have the power to veto important UN resolutions. Now, this has been extremely controversial, primarily because it means that these 5 countries can reject any UN resolutions that affect them negatively. Although Russia's use of veto power has been the most publicized, it was the US that refused to join the UN unless it was given veto power. It's believed that the veto will never be removed from the Security Council for this reason. It would mean that the US and its allies would have to give up this power as well. You should also know that the US tried to pass a resolution to invade Iraq after the 9/11 attacks. The resolution was rejected by the UN, but the US invaded Iraq anyway. Shout out to Mr. Beat's amazing video about the UN for that fun fact. Nobody's hands are clean in the bloody battle for global control. And you'll never guess who is if they comply with the SDGs and with US interests. International regulators like the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, have also played a key role here. Similarly to the WEF, entities like the IMF also try to influence the private sector with restrictive regulations which result in centralized systems in developed countries and corrupt leaders in developing countries. This helps developed countries control their populations and control developing countries too. The result of this dynamic is that almost no developing countries have managed to become developed over the last half-century. According to macro analyst Lynn Alden, only 2 countries have transitioned: South Korea and Taiwan, both of whom are aligned with US interests and are critical for its Asian influence. Speaking of which, the most viewed video on the UN's YouTube channel is a song about the SDGs by South Korean K-pop band BTS. Cringe. Anyways, it's safe to say that this state of affairs hasn't been ideal for most of the UN's member states since the 90s. Since that time, many leaders have spoken out at the UN's General Assembly. The most famous of these is probably former Libyan Prime Minister Muammar Gaddafi in 2008. Gaddafi ranted for over 90 minutes, and even ripped a page from the copy of the UN Charter. For reference, addresses at the UN's annual assemblies are limited to around 15 minutes. Now, Gaddafi was assassinated by US interests back in 2011, and there's been chaos in Libya and North Africa ever since.
Okay. Any comments on that? You want to check that video out? It's Who Controls the World. It's like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Okay. So I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A, questions and comments. Anybody got any questions or comments from anything during the week from last night? Or you want to shine light on something? Or you want some answers?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Shalom. I want to go back. When we had to stop on Jeremiah 23. I guess
Okay.
I didn't see the end because we had gone over so much, and that point that Mike was trying to make, it didn't ever come up in my perception of it. So if it did, can you enlighten on it?
What was it about?
When he was talking about we were talking about who's second in charge, and he took us back to Jeremiah 23, but Markel couldn't get to the scripture, and then they would just keep going back and forth. So I didn't know what point he was trying to make when he told us to go to 23 of Jeremiah.
Yeah. Well, we'll ask that question when I guess at the evening Shabbat class with Mike on here, because I mean,
yes, sir.
I want to know the answer to that too myself. Okay, so anybody else have anything?
You mentioned which president started that the Federal Reserve. It was Woodrow Wilson in 1913.
Yeah. Right, it just dawned on me when you was talking. I said, "It hit me, Wilson." Yeah.
Yes,
they tricked Taft. Taft had all the votes, but
it was the Taft, right?
Uh-huh. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. So I'm gonna play this right here. I thought this was pretty. This is good information. It's another take on how they tricked off what the Underground Railroad was really about. Okay.
In May 2021, Amazon Prime, together with director Barry Jenkins, created a miniseries based on the literary novel Underground Railroad, written by Colson Whitehead. It tells the story of Cora, who embarks on a dangerous journey to freedom using the routes of the Underground Railroad, and along the way will touch on issues such as racism, the political conflicts of the 19th century, and the abuse and mistreatment that slaves went through. But what was the Underground Railroad really about? Let us tell you the real story behind it. Click to like, share, and subscribe to uncover the truths, the triumphs, and the tribulations of those who dared to seek freedom. In America's turbulent 19th century, an underground network emerged as a beacon of hope in the fight against slavery. Known as the Underground Railroad, this ingenious and daring system was not a railroad in the traditional sense, nor did it run underground. Rather, it was a secret network of routes and shelters used by African and African American slaves in their desperate search for freedom in a land that still held chains in its history. To fully understand the scope and significance of the Underground Railroad, it is essential to situate it within the historical event that gave rise to it. When the American colonies won their independence from Great Britain and became the United States in 1776, slavery...
Yes, I want to shine a light on this before we go further. I talked about this years ago, but it's coming back up again of melanin, right? And people not understanding that when he says that he didn't want us dealing with blood because of life is in the blood, and the animals and And in mankind, the life is in the blood. So what's the life? The melanin that's in the blood. That's why he don't want us drinking blood or dealing with blood. You have to drain it from the animal and all that because of that. So when you these people now understanding that that's what connects us to the Creator. That's the part of us that's in us, that's from the Creator. So you can oppress that, or you can put it in a bind, and then because it's a life source on its own, it's gonna react. And so examples of that, which is what these people know, but we're not focusing in on it. So example of putting pressure on the melanin is jazz. From our suffering, jazz came on the scene. Jazz in itself, with the proceeds and the money that it generated, can free us by itself. Rap is another reaction to putting pressure on the melanin. And so notice what this guy just said, that the Underground Railroad was an ingenious system that was created. So when you look at it, it's a result of putting pressure on melanin that the Underground Railroad was created. So they denigrated the whole concept of it and how it operated, because it's going to shine a light on the mind of the Israelites. Okay.
Remained a pervasive reality in the fabric of society. The ideals of freedom and equality proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution did not apply to the African slaves who had been brought to North America since the 17th century to work on plantations, in mines, and in homes. The Declaration of Independence proclaimed that all men are created equal, but that equality did not extend to slaves. The US Constitution, adopted in 1787, did not directly address the issue of slavery, leading to compromise and tension between the northern and southern states. In an attempt to balance the interests of slave and free states, the Constitution included provisions such as counting slaves as 3/5 of a person for purposes of representation in Congress. Slavery remained a pillar of the American economy and society, creating a deep divide between free and slave states. As the country expanded westward, political conflicts and debates arose over whether new territories would allow or prohibit slavery. This division became an ever-widening chasm. It is good to digress for a moment to provide some context. When we say that slavery persisted as a pillar of the economy, it is because the economy of the southern regions was driven primarily by agricultural production on plantations. Some of the major crops for which slave labor was used included cotton, which was one of the most important crops in the South and required a great deal of manual labor, from planting and tending the crops to picking the cotton from the plants and stripping it for cotton fiber. Tobacco was also grown on many southern plantations, and slaves were involved in all stages of its production, from growing the leaves to harvesting and processing. In some southern regions, such as South Carolina and Georgia, rice was grown intensively, and slaves worked in the rice fields, performing tasks such as draining the fields and harvesting. In areas such as Louisiana, sugarcane was grown, and slaves played a key role in planting and harvesting the cane, as well as in the production of sugar and molasses. These are the most notable, however, because slaves were also involved in the production of a variety of other crops, such as corn, potatoes, and other staples. During this time of growing political tension and regional conflict, the Underground Railroad took shape. Although its name suggests an actual subway system, it was a clever metaphor that obscured its true nature. There were no trains or rails underground, but rather a network of routes and shelters operated by brave people who believed in the cause of freedom. The Underground Railroad became a beacon of hope for runaway slaves yearning to escape slavery. It used secret codes and symbols to communicate in a world where pro-slavery laws made it difficult for slaves to escape. The North Star became a symbol of direction toward freedom, indicating that north was the way to go. The operation of this clandestine network was a testament to human endurance and solidarity in the midst of oppression. Shelters, churches, and farms along the routes.
So you see how he worded that? Now all of a sudden, it's the Underground Railroad, the genius part of it. Now it's a testament to human. You know what I'm saying? Now it ain't. They didn't. Now they want to include all humans to it, but it wasn't. It was Israelites, blacks that created it. It wasn't no human. It was the Israelites. They put pressure on the melanin. That's what they got. But now they want to say it's some kind of, you know, testament to humanity. Okay.
Served as safe havens, providing fugitives with food, shelter, and guidance on their journey to freedom. Courageous conductors, such as Harriet Tubman, led fugitives along dangerous routes and faced countless risks in their quest for freedom. The Underground Railroad was not just the work of remarkable individuals. It was a collaborative effort in which many people, both black and white, played critical roles. White Quakers and abolitionists defied pro-slavery laws by providing shelter, food, and financial support to fugitives, demonstrating a solidarity that transcended racial barriers. As the 19th century progressed, political and social tensions in the United States came to a head. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which toughened measures against fugitives and those who aided them, increased the need for the Underground Railroad as a safe escape route. Events such as the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 and the increasingly polarized political climate of the 1850s brought the country to the brink of civil war. But as tensions rose, the Underground Railroad continued to operate, leading thousands of escaped slaves to freedom. Despite its physical demise, the legacy of the Underground Railroad endures as a powerful symbol of resistance and solidarity in the fight against slavery. Historic sites, museums, and commemorative events throughout the United States and Canada keep the memory of this underground network alive, reminding future generations of the determination and courage of those who sought freedom in the midst of oppression. The Underground Railroad represents the infinite capacity of the human spirit to endure adversity and yearn for freedom, even when the obstacles seem insurmountable. In a world of division, this underground network serves as an eternal reminder of the universal quest for freedom and equality. The roots of the Underground Railroad. The routes taken were somewhat turbulent because of the need to keep a low profile. What is known of these routes is that they began in the southern slave states of the United States, such as Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina, where runaway slaves escaped from plantations. During the journey, runaway slaves would travel north, avoiding patrols of slave traders and bounty hunters. They would stop at safe houses, barns, or shelters along their route, which could be in rural areas or small towns. As they moved north, they passed through states like Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. In cities like Cincinnati, Ohio, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, runaway slaves could find abolitionist communities that offered shelter and support. Many runaway slaves continued their journey to Canada, where they eventually found freedom. In Canada, provinces such as Ontario became the final destinations for those escaping slavery. The last cry for freedom.
Okay. Any comments on it? Okay. With that being said, we're gonna, like I said last night, we was dealing with why second in charge, right? That was the topic that was in the room. So I'm just gonna pick up with it because I wasn't really able to get all the way to the end of that. So I'm gonna go a little refresher first. So this thing, second in charge, is when you look at the scriptures based on what we discovered Prophet of Awakening, is that from the beginning we see that Creator Yahweh he created these 7 angels, and then from that, before he created the 7, he created Michael. And Michael is the angel that has the same characteristics similar to the Most High. He's the closest to the Most High. And so all through the scriptures, things are happening, things being done, judgments being made, and stuff happening, and we thinking it's the creator. But in the beginning, he created this angelic being, the Lord of hosts, that's doing all this bidding from him, strong one. And so I identified the fact that these angels got L on the end of their name, and the L means strong one. So these angels are strong ones, but Michael is, they're also prince. So Michael is understanding his role and design when the Most High formed and created him was, there's no other angel like him. He's doing the Most High business strong, and we see that these people that encountered him, encountered the Most High, pattern they kingdoms behind that. We know that Nebuchadnezzar had the Lord of hosts, a strong man. Amalek, when Abraham met him at the well, he had his Lord of hosts with him. And Nebuchadnezzar, Amalek, Hazareth chose Mordecai. Pharaoh chose Joseph. So let me touch on that because that's where we stopped at. So when you get into the scriptures, I'll just read a little bit of it. So you go to Genesis 41, story of Joseph. And so we see by the Israelites being delivered, Lord of hosts is using the same system that the Creator Yahweh put in place when he raises the Israelite man up to deliver his people out of captivity. He bring him to second in charge. He don't never make him. He can easily, with the power that he's willing, make him the Pharaoh or whatever title it is in that certain particular kingdom, but he always take him to second in charge, which is controlling all the affairs of the kingdom. And that's how he uses that position to deliver his people. So we're in Genesis chapter 41. I'm kind of glad through this because it's already been over. And everybody really pretty much knows the story of Joseph. But I'm in Joseph, I'm starting at verse 14. It says, then the Pharaoh called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he saved himself and changed his raiment and came into the Pharaoh. So before I go any further, you can see this template right here. You can't get no worse off than being in the dungeon, being a slave, and being in the dungeon. That's the bottom of the food chain. And so when you go to Deuteronomy, he tells us we're going to be up because if we didn't obey his words and his laws and statutes and we turned away from him, we at the bottom of the food chain, which is what? Slaves. We just saw that these people in the Constitution said that we were 2/3 human. We wasn't human. We wasn't fully human. So we at the bottom of the food chain. So from the bottom of the food chain, that's where David was at. When you put him in comparison with his brothers, they had him out in the field with sheep. His brothers was considered, nobility and all that. They was expected to become famous, not David. So anyway, out of the dungeon, he had them go get Joseph and brought Joseph to the top. So is that not what we're looking at right now? We're at the bottom of the food chain. Now we see Israel rising. We're looking at the exact same thing. transpiring right in front of the whole world. You got your eyes on, you got your glasses on. So anyway, it says, the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that can understand dreams to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, well, I'm not going to read that part of it, but he told him about the dream. So then Joseph comes back and says, let me see. And Joseph said to the Pharaoh, verse 25, the dream of the Pharaoh is one. God has showed the Pharaoh what he's about to do. And the seven good king are 7 years of 7 years, and 7 good years or 7 years of the dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored king that came up after thee are 7 years, and the 7 years ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto the Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall be known in the land by reason of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because of the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now, therefore, the Pharaoh looked out. Is it to Joseph tell him, now therefore, let the Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. And let the Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up a 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenty of years, and let them gather all the food and of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of the Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for a store to the land against the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. So Joseph gave him to interpret the dream, and then he gave him a suggestion to find a wise man to affiliate all that, to oversee it. So 37 says, and the thing was good in the eyes of the Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. And the Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according to thy words shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And the Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in the vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the 2nd chariot which he had, and they cried before him, bowed the knee, and he made him ruler over all of Egypt. So we see right here, he made Joseph second in charge. Joseph ended up coming from out of the dungeon when he arrived in Egypt to being second in charge. So I want to shine a light on some things. We see right here when after Joseph interpreted the dream, in verse 25, Joseph said unto the Pharaoh, the dream of the Pharaoh is one. God have showed the Pharaoh what he is about to do. Now I'm go back up. Let me see where I was at. Yeah, it says, the 7, go back, 25. Joseph said unto the Pharaoh, the dream of the Pharaoh is one. God has showed the Pharaoh of what he is about to do. So it says God. We dealt with this the other day. God has showed the Pharaoh what he's about to do. So how did he show the Pharaoh? How was the Pharaoh? How was it shown to the Pharaoh? Well, you go back to Balaam. The angel of the Lord entered into Balaam. Balaam went into a trance, and he showed Balaam. Balaam prophesied. That's how all the prophets do it. So is it God that's entering into these men? No, it ain't God. It's these angels. So it's the angel of the Lord entered into Balaam, entered into the Pharaoh. He entered into him in the night, gave him a dream for one purpose only, to uplift Joseph. He gave him a dream because he knew Joseph is going to be able to interpret. So it's not God. It says 25. Joseph said unto the Pharaoh, the dream of the Pharaoh is one. God has showed he's not Yahweh. This is what we've been tricked off at. Creator in heaven. Angel entered into him. It's just like with Amalek. He stole Sarah. It wasn't God came to him in the middle of the night. It was the angel of the Lord came with a sword drawn and told him, you got Abraham. So it's not God. But they're putting God there. By them putting God there, they're eliminating the Lord of hosts. That's why we didn't know who the hell he was until recently. So yeah, so we can see him bringing the dream to the Pharaoh, going back to Joseph, telling Joseph what the interpretation of the dream is, then causing the Pharaoh to make Joseph second in command. So that was the story of Joseph. He ended up being second in command, and the purpose was to deliver his people. Use Joseph to deliver his people. Okay. So, and I added to that to see how he put a rope, he put a gold necklace, put a ring on him, put a gold necklace on him, and told Joseph, the Pharaoh got a chariot, but Joseph along with him, he got his other officers with him, and they all in chariots. But Joseph in the second chariot. Well, you go to Ezekiel chapter 1. It's a cloud that comes when Yahweh comes in a cloud, because he don't want nobody to see him, and then he has to shun himself. He has to shield himself from humans because of the radiance and the glory that's come from him. No man can deal with. It's gonna kill him instantly. That's the whole purpose of the Lord of hosts. So we say, what are you talking about? The Lord of hosts in the cloud with him. Just like the Pharaoh riding the chariot, Joseph behind him in the second chariot with the ring and the necklace on. Same thing in the cloud. Scripture tells you it's four angels in the cloud with him. So the cloud came down on top of Mount Sinai. Guess what? The Lord hosts in the cloud with him. When Joseph was issued, when Moses was commanded to come up in the cloud, to come up on the mountain, who do you think told him to come up there? The Lord of hosts. Went to get him, told him to come up in the cloud. Because the Lord of hosts in there, because Yahweh in there. But we don't consider these things because of, we've been brainwashed and bamboozled. So we go to Mordecai in Genesis, Esther. Esther chapter, Esther. Let me get this. Yeah, Esther chapter 6. Okay. So we see that, pick it up in verse 1. On that night, notice it's that night. On that night, could not the king sleep? There we go again. It's Lord of hosts, not Yahweh. On that night, could not the king sleep? And he commanded to bring the book of the records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king, and it was found written that Mordecai, that's how he dealing with these men. So he says, And it was found written that Mordecai had told Begatha and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlain, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hands on the king at Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servant, the minister unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who in the court? Now Haman was come in into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said unto him, come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor? Now Haman, in his arrogance, thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighted to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king used to wear, and a horse that the king rides upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and the horse be delivered to the hands of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man with whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Then the king said unto Haman, make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even as Mordecai the Jew, and do so to Mordecai the Jew, that standeth at the king's gate, and let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. So, like I was saying before, my observation, you see people that come into the knowledge of who the Lord host is and all that, and even before that, they fail to see how that these men 100% depend on the Lord of hosts. He's in everything that they do, no matter what kind of adversity comes, they stick to the Lord of hosts. They don't fail. That's how we see so many miraculous things happening to them. We're not doing that because as soon as the pressure comes, we forget the stories that has been conveyed to us, forget the things that we know the Lord has done for us. We forget that. Then you wonder why you fall to the wayside. But they never turn back. They know his capability, they know what he's capable of doing, and they just wait. That's what Joseph did, and that's what Mordecai did. We see Mordecai doing right there. But notice, even in Egypt, with the 10 plagues, the Lord of hosts forced the Pharaoh to even verbatim speak blessings on the Israelites. The Pharaoh told them, don't come back in here no more, right? Next time you come back, I'm gonna kill your firstborn and all that. Well, he spoke to his own judgment on his own self. So the same thing right here with Mordecai and Haman. Haman was the enemy. So he thinking that he's gonna receive the blessing. So he spoke blessings on Mordecai and even know. And so this is the thing I'm talking about is when you look at the Most High order, if I be a nut bucket, the thing that I can dictate what the angels do. When it's divine order that the Most High placed the angels over us. So the thing that you above them, you're an arrow. Same way when you come on down, the order that he got in place. If you thinking that you equal if I think I'm equal to the angels, then how am I gonna win? So mankind cannot contend with these angels. You see what they're doing? They're making Haman look like a fool. They made the Pharaoh look like a fool because of these men operating within the Most High divine order, and that's how things are getting done. So anyway, we see you go to chapter 8, verses 1 and 2. And on that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, check it out, the house of Haman, the Jew enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, and for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring. Same thing to Pharaoh. The king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So you see that same thing happened in Egypt, same thing happened right here. And then chapter 10, the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of the power, all the acts of his power and his might, and the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him, and are they not written in the books of the chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai, the Jew, was next, second in command under King Ahasuerus, and great among the Jews, and accepted of a multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people and speaking peace to all his seed. So we see right here, it's nothing new under the sun. He raised Mordecai up just like he raised Joseph up. So this next person that I don't think too many people know about, but it's a whole bunch of meat in it. I want to connect these dots. So this is a story of I might not say his name right, but it's Ahiqar, Ahakor. I think that's how you say it, Ahakor. So anyway, when Daniel was in Babylon, these Babylonians changed his name to Belteshazzar. Scriptures tell you that they changed his name to Belteshazzar. Why Belteshazzar? Because you got Nebuchadnezzar. You got Nebuzaradan. So that Zar in there is the name of their God. Just like with us. You got Isaiah, all these Isaiah, all of them got the name of their God in there. So Ahar, he's an Israelite, Aqua. So the name don't sound like no Hebrew because that name was given to him. Just like Zerubbabel was given what's the name? Let me make sure. Let me get it back quick. Okay. Sheshbazzar. I don't know how they eluded me, but so Zerubbabel name, he's an Israelite, but they gave him, just like they gave Daniel Belteshazzar, they gave him Sheshbazzar. So you read that, you wouldn't think that's Israelite. But this guy right here, Aqua, that's the name they gave him. He's over there in the Assyria region. That name is associated with the Assyrians, but that's the name they gave him. So now let me read it. I'm in the Apocryphal book again. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. So I'm in the Apocryphal books, and I'm gonna start at let's see. Yeah, I'm starting at the beginning. I'm gonna read this. It's about 20 chapter verses. The story of Tubal, the son of Tibal, son of Hanah, son of Adu, son of Gibal, of the stock of Asher, of the tribe of Naphtali, who in the days of Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, so this is the 10 tribes they was taken to Assyria, was carried into captivity from Bispa, which is in the south of Kadesh, Naphtali, in Galilee above Asher. I walked all the days of my life in the ways of truth and uprightness. I did many acts of charity for my brothers and my nation who were taken to the land of Assyrians, to Nineveh, with me. And when I was in my own country, in the land of Israel, when I was young, the whole tribe of my forefather Naphtali revolted from the house of Jerusalem, which had been chosen from all the tribes of Israel for all the tribes to offer sacrifices in which the temple of the dwelling of the Most High had been dedicated and built for all ages. So what he's telling you right here is verifying Judah, the Judeans. That's where the temple was at. Right? They had to go there. That's why David is out of Judah. Right? And everybody was ordained out of the rest of the tribes, ordained to go to the temple that's in Jerusalem, that's in the land of Judah. So all the tribes which have revolted, which would offer sacrifices to the heifer Baal, but I alone. So when you understand the story, Rehoboam built 2 calves, golden calves, just like Aaron did, to keep the people down in the region of the 10 tribes. He didn't want them to go up to Jerusalem because it's a spiritual thing. When they went there, he knew that they was going to repent because see, David was there, and the lure and everything that go along with that. So to keep them from going there 3 times out of the year, he built his own temple with these golden calves, and that's where the Baal come in at. He says, so all the tribes which had revolted with it would offer sacrifice to Baal. That's what Rehoboam created. But I alone went many a time to Jerusalem for the festival, these 3 festivals, as the scripture command all Israel in an everlasting decree, taking with me the first fruits and the 10th part of my crops and my first shearings, and I would give them to the priests, the sons of Aaron, at the altar. A 10th part of all my produce I will give to the sons of Levi, who officiated at Jerusalem, and another 10th I will sell and go and spread the proceeds in Jerusalem each year, and the third 10th I will give to those who was fitting to give it, as Deborah, my grandmother, had instructed me, for I was left an orphan by my father. And when I became a man, I married Hannah, who was of the stock of our family, and by her I had a son, Titus. And when I was carried into captivity to Nineveh, all my brothers and relatives ate the food of the heathen, but I kept myself from eating because I remembered God with all my heart. See that? For example right there. Because I remember God, the Lord of hosts, with all my heart, and the Most High gave me favor and standing with Shalmaneser, and I became his bidder. And I made a journey to Media, and I deposited 10 talents of silver with Gebals, the brother of Gebirus, in Regel in Media. But when Sennacherib died, his son Shalmaneser died, his son Sennacherib became king in his place, and the highways were unsafe. So I thought I could no longer travel to Media. Media, that's the second beast. Keep that in mind. It's the second beast. So they was taken there. They was taken there by Nebuchadnezzar. I mean, they was taken there by the king of Assyria. And the southern kingdom was taken to Babylon, but the 10 tribes were taken to Assyria. So we said, but Cyrus conquered Nebuchadnezzar. So the 10 tribes ain't went nowhere. They still in Nineveh. Well, so now Nebuchadnezzar controlling all 12 of the tribes. This is what people don't know. When Nebuchadnezzar, when Cyrus conquered Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, he acquired, he already had the southern kingdom. Now he got the southern and the northern kingdom on his control. So it says, in the time of Shalmaneser, I used to do many acts of charity for my brethren, and I would give bread to be to the hungry, and my clothes to the naked. And if I saw one of my brothers, my people dead and thrown outside the walls of Nineveh, I would bury him. And if Sennacherib king killed anyone who had come as a fugitive from Judah, I buried them secretly. For he killed many in his anger, and their bodies were looked for by the king, and he could not be found. But one of the Ninevites went and informed the king about me, that I was burying them, and I hid. And when I learned that I was being sought for to be put to death, I was frightened and escaped. Then all my property was seized, and nothing was left for me but my wife Hannah and my son Tobias. So you say, what are you talking about? Why are you reading this? Joseph was in captivity in Babylon in the pit, in the prison, slave. He was brought all the way up to second in command. Mordecai, same way. He was reduced to nothing. They brought him back up to second in command, delivered the Israelites. So this guy right here, everything was taken from him because he was burying the Israelites. He was doing the Most High will, and they ended up found himself with nothing, right? So it says, before 50 days had passed, his two sons killed him. This Sennacherib, two sons that killed him, and they fled into the mountains of Ararat. That's where the ark rested at. And Eshkron, his son, became king in his place. And he appointed, this is the guy I'm talking about. He appointed Ahakra, my brother, Hananiah's son, to have charge of all the accounting of his kingdom and all his administration. Same thing with Joseph. Same thing with Mordecai. And Ahakra asked for me. And I went to Nineveh. And Ahakra was a cupbearer, just like Nehemiah. See that? And keeper of the signet, the ring. Pharaoh gave Joseph a ring, and Azarus gave Mordecai a ring. Keeper says keeper of the signet, and had charge of the administration and the accounts. And Akron appointed him second to himself, and he was my nephew. And when I reached my home, and my wife Hannah was restored to me, Tobias my son, at the harvest of the festival, which is the feast of 7 weeks, a good dinner was prepared for me, and I sat down to eat and saw the abundance of food. And I said to my son, go and bring any poor man of our brethren whom you can find, who remembers the Lord, and I will wait for you. And he came back and said, Father, one of our race has been strangled and thrown out in the bazaar. Then, before I tasted anything, I rushed out and brought him into a room until the sun set. Then I returned and washed myself and ate my food in sadness. And I remembered the prophecy of Amos, as he had said, your feast will be turned into sorrow, and all your good cheers into lamentations. And I wept aloud. And when the sun was set, I went and dug a grave and buried him. And my neighbors laughed at me and said, he is not yet afraid of being put to death for doing this. And he ran away. And here he is burying the dead again. That same night, after I had buried him, I returned, and as I was ceremonially defiled, I laid down to sleep by the wall of the courtyard, and with my face uncovered. And I did not know that there was sparrows in the wall above me. And as my eyes were open, sparrows droppings fell into my eyes and produced white film. Okay, let me see about that. Yeah, and produced white film on them. And I went to the physician, and they could not help me, but Aqua supported me for 2 years until he went to Amos. Then my wife Hannah found employment at the women's work and sent work back to his owners, and they paid her wages and gave her a kid besides. But when she came home to me, the kid began to bleak. And I said to her, where did this kid come from? It is stolen. Give it back to us to its owners, for we have not no right to eat anything that is stolen, right? But it was what she said unto me, it was given me as a gift, in addition to my wages. But I would not believe her and told her to give it back to its owners, and I blushed for her. Then she answered and said unto me, and where are your charities? Where is your uprightness? Of course, you know everything. Then I was grieved and I wept and I prayed sorrowfully and said, Lord, you are upright in all your doings and all your ways are mercy and truth, and you always judge truly and justly. Remember me, look upon me, and do not take vengeance on me for my sins and my ignorant acts, and for those of my forefathers which I have committed in your sight, for they disobeyed your commands. You have given us up to pillage and captivity and death, and made us a proverb and a reproach among all the nations among whom we have been scattered. And now your judgments, which are many, are right in exacting from me for my sins and for those of my forefathers, because we did not keep your commandments. For we have not walked uprightly before you. So now deal with me according to your pleasure. Command my spirit to be taken from me, so that I may be released and return to dust. For I had rather die than live, because I had not listened, okay, because I have had to listen to false reproaches, and I have felt great sorrow. Command me to be released from this distress and taken to my everlasting place of abode, and do not turn your face away from me. So, like I was saying before, look right here. It says, it was given me a gift in addition to wages, as they say, and where are your charities, where is your uprightness? Of course, you know everything. Then I grieved and I wept and I prayed sorrowfully and said, Lord, you are upright in all your doings and ways are merciful and true, and you always judge truly and justly. Remember me and look upon me. Do not take vengeance on me for my sins and my ignorant acts, for those of my forefathers which they committed in your sight. And here we go right here. For they disobeyed your commandments. So like I was saying in the Exodus 23 and 20, the Most High, Lord of hosts, came down in the cloud. You know, it's Lord of hosts with him and three other angels, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel. And so, let me get this right. Yeah, it says, yeah, he told Moses, I'm going to leave the Lord of hosts here with y'all. Obey his voice. Listen to him. So Yahweh out the picture. He gone. He came down for 40 days, 40 nights. So whoever they talking, who the person they talking to is the Lord of hosts. It ain't no debate whether they talking to the Lord, to Yahweh. He gone. He left the angel in charge. Let me read that. Then I'll come back to this. So he says right here in Exodus chapter 23, right? He says, yeah, so like I said, I'm hoping this is going to help somebody. So it says in 23 and 20, I showed you the cloud came, so Yahweh, these four angels with him, the Lord of hosts, it says, this is where the God of Israel received the Israelites. Yahweh gave Israelites over to him, right here. He said, behold, I sent an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him. This is Yahweh talking to Moses. Beware of him. Obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he would not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. So now this centuries and years later, right here with this situation with Aqua, or with Aqua. So it says, Lord, you are upright in all your doings, in all your ways are merciful and true. You always judge truly and justly. Remember me, look upon me. Do not take vengeance on me for my sins and my ignorant acts, for those of my forefathers, which they committed in your sight. Yahweh ain't there. See that? He left the angel, the Lord. He left the Lord of hosts there for the Israelites to deal with. For they disobeyed your commands. We just read, he told them, listen to him. He's speaking to you. I'm going to leave. I just came down here for a minute. And he left. So we see what this is. And our forefathers understood that. Let me read it again to shine some more light, a little more light on it before I get ready to close out. So it says, Lord, you are upright, all your ways and doings, and all your ways are mercy and truth. And you always judge. Yahweh is the judge. We gave that over to, we just read, he said, he's not going to point your transgression. Judgment. Truly and justly. Remember me, look upon me, do not take vengeance on me for my sins and my ignorant acts, and for those of my forefathers which they committed in your sight. Back to what I was telling you about in the temple. The three high holy days. He in there. That's what the scriptures say, before me, sin before me. When you understand the expanse of outer space, ain't no way in hell Yahweh standing before nobody. He ain't there. So it says, for they disobeyed your commands, you have given us up to pillage, captivity, and death, and made us a proverb and a reproach among all the nations among whom we have been scattered. And now your judgments, which are many, are right in exacting from me and for my sins and those of my forefathers, because we did not keep your commandments. His voice. We have not walked uprightly before you. So now deal with me according to your pleasure. Here we go. So we see right here, it ain't Yahweh. He ain't have nothing to do with it. He gone. And just like we just read, the Pharaoh gave it up to Joseph. He said, I'm just a Pharaoh. Everything else in your hands. I'm just on the throne. I'm only greater than you on the throne. Michael brought Joseph to that position. He brought Mordecai to that position. He brought this guy right here, Arquah to that position. He brought Zerubbabel to that position. So the thing I want to shine a light on too about this guy Arquah and what is being revealed when you get that understanding. So it's the same thing happening over here simultaneously with Mordecai and with Arquah. It's just that Mordecai is over there with the 10 tribes. I mean, Mordecai is with the southern kingdom. And this guy over here is with the northern kingdom. But they got you thinking that, you know, they totally took off the history from the northern kingdom. The 10 tribes. And so let's look at it. Now we go to Ezra right quick, based on what I'm just showing you. And let's go to Ezra. This is why Cyrus said what he said. And so you can see the same thing playing out now. You know, Creator ain't gone nowhere. I mean, the Lord of hosts ain't, you know, he ain't gone nowhere. So let's look at it. Ezra. He says, chapter 1, verse 1. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, it was already proclaimed that Cyrus was coming. King of Persia, right? That's where the Assyrians at. And that's where the 10 tribes at. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it in writing. Well, what Cyrus controlling the northern and the southern kingdom. We just read the story of Tobias. He telling you that we over here in Media Persia. right? So that's who Cyrus. Cyrus goes and conquered Nebuchadnezzar. Now he controlled, he got the southern kingdom from Nebuchadnezzar, and now he already had the northern kingdom with him. He got all of them. So then, two, thus said Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven, have given me all the kingdoms of the earth. And he had charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Who is there among you of all, see that? All his people. His God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judea, build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is God that is in Jerusalem. And whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with goods and with beasts, besides the free will offering for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. So now I want to go back and shine light on something to show you how magnificent and how overreaching the Most High Lord whole power is. So it's in verse 3. We just read that Cyrus said the drama that he was going through when he was before he was taken by the Assyrians. He said that nobody didn't want to go to Jerusalem to where David was at. David's seed line, where the temple was at that Solomon had built. Rehoboam had thrown him in a cross. But you had the remnant, the righteous seed, that it was a burden for them. So you think they wasn't praying to the Lord of hosts about fixing that? Well, here you go, right here. Verse 3. Who is there among you of all these people? He's talking to the righteous seed. He's talking to all of them, but it's for the righteous. The ones that burdened with the Most High's laws and statutes, right? His God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem. See that? Ain't that was the problem that Tobias had? Tobit. See? Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. And whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourned, let the men of his place help him with silver, gold, with goods, with beasts, besides the free will offering for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. So, like I said, we see all through the scriptures, even our forefathers that was in Babylon. He told them, Moses, first thing he told Moses was, I heard it cry. I heard they cry in Egypt. Well, he heard Tobias and people in the northern kingdom. He heard they cry. The righteous seed, the righteous remnant. So if he heard theirs, then he hearing ours. So what you fumbling with? You say you've been awakened. What's the problem? It's not Trump or goddamn Biden. None of them ain't gonna fix this. We looking at it, he fixing it. He hearing the cries. He said he changed not. Come on. So any comments on that before we vacate the premises? Anybody got any comments, questions about anything?
Shalom. I just have a comment on connecting the dots again. For this week and part of last week, we continue to talk and reference Tobit and his love for the Lord of hosts, even though the people still, when they were brought into that captivity, they went to idolism, with that idolatry, but he passed that and he continued to stay with the Lord of hosts and believe and know that he would keep him. And as he got his blessings, he continued to bless others before he even did for himself.
Right. Right. So like that, so it's like I was saying, it's a lot of stuff going on when you get the right foundation, and then you go into those books. You can see, you can guide that foundation gonna guide you through it. So we see all kind of stuff in there. Once once the information is being revealed, you can see it. You know, he's answering. He changed not. Like I said, you can see what he did in Egypt. He did in Babylon. What he did in Babylon, he did in Media Persia. What he did in there, he did with the Greeks. And so you got to know he's doing the same thing now. You just got to be able to see his works. All right. There's no nothing to be worried about, uptight about.
Thank
Like
you. Yes, sir.
And it's that, and the thing about it is, you know, scripture says that it grieved the Lord when he cast us off. It grieved him. Why? Because you got, just like we were just reading, with look at Abraham when he wanted time for him to get a son for Isaac. It's a remnant. He knew that it's a remnant somewhere with righteous Israelite women. Righteous Israelite means it's a remnant. He told his servant, go and get, you know, and get a woman from there. So in 143 BC, when he cast the nation of Israel off, when his nation came to a full, it was stocks, different families that never veered from him. But because of what the other one was doing, he had to cast all of them off. Same thing with Babylon.
Yes, sir.
And that's what he talking about.
To keep the remnants of the seeds going. Yes, sir.
Right. So he poured his, so now in these last days, he pouring his spirit out on everybody, so that it's that righteous remnant that's going to receive the spirit when he pour it out.
Yes.
That's how it go. You ain't nothing to worry about. Like I said, you're going to start, you know what happened to you when you came in contact with the Most High Spirit. You went to vibrating and buck jumping. Well, the next nigga ain't doing that. Something ain't right. Something ain't right if you ain't responding to the spirit when it's poured out. You can't talk to him and you know, all this stuff. There's something wrong. And it ain't no concern to you, yours.
Yes, right. Sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there something? So, with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom to everybody, and can you give me a call, Wesley? All right, shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom,
Shalom, everyone.
Okay.